So this is part 2 of our FiTech EFI install on the old 72 GMC with the LS. And in this video, we're going to finish up the wiring, get that old tank out from behind the seat. I'm going to install a new tank in the rear. Like I said, finish up all the wiring. We've got to get the transmission installed and run the fuel lines and button up a few extra things, and hopefully by the end of this video I'll be able to show you firing this guy up. So please stick around, like and subscribe, share it with all your friends. I really appreciate it. Thank you. While I'm waiting on paint to dry, I'm going to start removing this gas tank. I was underneath and just had already disconnected the fuel pump and all that good stuff a while back. And get these lines loose. This wire off of here. That goes to the sending unit, so I'll run that back. I'll extend that wire. Guys, all right, today what I'm working on, a couple things. I'm working on the throttle linkage. So I bought a low car throttle cable to go on this EFI, this FiTech, and I had to buy this bracket separately. I believe that's a FiTech number, but working on the cowboy truck today, trying to get that buttoned up. I need an extra set of hands to get the nut threaded on the inside in there, so I'll be waiting for somebody to come by to help me out with that. Unboxing the Boyd's. This is a Boyd's aluminum tank for fuel injection that I ordered a while back, and so I ordered it. It has I think it's an Aeromotive. I'll double check that, but I believe it's an Aeromotive fuel pump in it. So I think I have everything ready to go. I bought a hot rod from Hot Rod Fuel Lines, I believe it's called, and it's the fuel line kit that has the to the motor and back, so the return on it as well. And then I'll have to drill or cut a hole in the bottom of the bed for the fill neck here. So I'm just going to kind of get it laid out and do some quick measurements and see if I'm going to have to remove this brace here on the very end of the frame. If I do, I'll rebuild something. Maybe have to move it back a little bit or notch it or do something there to make that fit nicely. I still have to put the bumper on too, so I've got to make sure that I take into account my brackets and can I get bolts through that for my bumper setup. So get it out of here and see. A little better. Okay. So they do make a mounting kit for this, which I didn't really need. It's like another 50 or 60 bucks, and I believe it had a strap and maybe a couple rubber pieces just to isolate it from the frame, but I have all that stuff here, so I didn't need to spend the extra money for that. Just want to see, I've got the panhard bar mount here, and then this that I've got to get between. And then the other thing I might look at doing is I have the bolt on the panhard bar going through this way and the nut on that side, so I might flip that around so the nut's on this side. So if I ever have to service that or take that off for some reason, I'll just make my life a little easier. throttle this up under there. Pull the tank up. Real easy with an extra 7 minutes. Might fit. Might just work. It will be a little tricky getting these bolts in. I should be able to get it from back here. I think I'll be able to put a bolt here, and then I'll have to drill a new space because I cut the back of the frame off, a new spot for maybe a bolt here for my bumper brackets anyway. Yeah, this is gonna fit good. Show you guys. There's still plenty of space there. In fact, I think I might, once I flip that bolt around and have the nut on this side, then I think I might bump it back just a touch because I'm really close. I don't think you can see it, but I'm really close down here. Almost touching. And then I'll put a little rubber pad underneath between the frame and the flange. Flip the bolt on the pan hard bar, and then I can remount this, mark some holes, get a rubber pad and bolt it up. Then I can start running lines. I'm glad I don't have to do a bunch of fabrication back here. That's nice. Up where I left off here. I drilled some holes in these flanges. I marked them. There are already existing holes in the frame. They're probably like 3/4 inch holes. Give me a little room, little wiggle room to kind of fine tune this. I went up and picked up some grade 8 hardware. These are 7/16 and some nice flat washers or big washers to support that flange. Quite a big area there, so that's where I'm at right now. I drilled all of these. I also cut these rubber strips, and I just used, I don't really have any dies or cutters for this, so I just used an old pipe. It's probably like a 3/4 inch pipe, this in, and just beat it on a block of wood, and it cut a pretty decent hole. It's a little bit jagged, but it'll work pretty well for what we're doing here. So what I'm gonna get started is get this tank back up in there with the strap and get some bolts in the holes. I did cut off that pan hard bar bolt. I don't know, there's maybe 3/8 of an inch sticking out past the nut, so I just trimmed it off so that gave me all the clearance I needed. It was already had a pretty good amount of clearance, but make sure there was no issue if that flexed or whatever might happen. So I want to give it plenty of clearance. So I think I'm ready to bolt this up for the final time now. fuel line I told you about. So a hot rod fuel hose. They seem to be the most reasonable. So I believe this is a 40-foot kit. They have a 30-foot kit, but I was worried that 30-foot wouldn't get me all the way there and back, kind of routing up over the C-notch and everything else, and I didn't want it to be tight. You know how frustrating that would be if you come up foot short or whatever. I also ordered this little tool to go in the vise, a little magnetic tool to go in the vise for the A&N fittings. And then there should be quite a few fittings. There's some 45s and 90s in here. Also have an inline fuel filter from Earl's. And then this is the sending unit. And I ordered the 90 ohm sending unit. That's what was originally the sending unit in the end cab tank is a 90 ohm on the 72. So I ordered the 90 ohm so that it would read on my factory gauge. Of course, I got the pump here, so I have to find a good place to ground both of these. Probably I'll just jump right over here somewhere on the frame that's nice and close, easy access. Maybe I'll drill a hole over here and just put it right there. It'll just be nice and clean and easy. And then start running this fuel line. Get some fittings. There's also a check valve that goes in here. Then I ordered a swivel fitting. I believe it's for this one. It's a swivel fitting with an opening. I'm going to show you guys what I learned about building the fuel line for these. This is a hot rod fuel hose. So first, anytime you make a cut, wrap some tape around where you're going to cut it. Now, I don't have the special cutters. I'm just going to use like a grinder to cut as needed. But this is a nice fresh cut on this, so I'm going to go ahead and use this. So wrap tape around it, like some masking tape a couple times. Make your cut. It's just going to keep that nylon from fraying because it has a plastic liner with this nylon outer. So it's a little different than some of the other A&N fittings because this is a 3-piece. So you have the coupler that will screw onto whatever accessory. Have this nut that's going to go over the hose, and then this little ferrule. And the ferrule has these little, it'll just kind of give it some bite on the inside. So first we've got to get this over the nylon hose. So leave a little bit of tape on there, like this is probably just one layer of tape, just so it kind of holds that nylon from fraying out as you're trying to slide this over. And just be careful because there is some braiding in here and you'll poke yourself pretty good. I'm not going to do that. And then we need to trim a little bit of the nylon off. So I think this is different from some of those standard A&N fittings, so that we can slide this over the plastic inside hose. So I'm just going to trim off enough to kind of give me room for that ferrule. Got me. All right. And make sure that inner plastic piece, sometimes when you cut it, if you cut it with the regular pinch style cutters, it's going to smash that inner liner. So you want to make sure that you round that out. I just stuck a screwdriver in there to do that. On there. There's a taper in. I don't know if you can see it in there. There's a taper in that goes down towards this fitting. Making sure that plastic is not catching on the lip here. There's a little bit of a bevel to it as it first starts. But it keeps catching. Almost cutting that edge. There it goes. Okay, now I can pull it back in there. And then start threading it in. Make sure it's straight. And then it said to just leave about a millimeter gap as you tighten this up. Okay, so that's the first one. I think I recommend gloves when you're doing this. Now I have to do a bunch more. When I come out, I got to figure out a place to put a fuel line or a fuel filter. I have this fuel filter here, and it's an Earl's part number AT230106. And if I remember right, I think this is a 10 micron. No, a 30 micron. I think is what this one is. So I'm going to run that. And I'll probably put it down here underneath the cab where it's easily serviceable. All right, good morning. I'll give you guys a little update on the cowboy truck and where I'm at right now. So yesterday I was trying to fire the new fuel injection, FiTech fuel injection, and it would crank but not fire. So I called FiTech. They ran me through some program things on the computer and some settings, but it still wouldn't fire. So they wanted me to check the fuel pressure. I don't have a way to put in an inline fuel pressure gauge, so I'm working on that right now. I've got that ordered, a gauge and a fitting. I'll show you guys what that looks like when I get it. So it's just gonna go in line. I probably won't leave it there. I'll just use it just to test, and then I'll have it for future reference. But that's what I'm waiting on there to try to get this thing started. So waiting on parts here. Then I did, however, get my seat back. I'll show you guys the seat in a second. I think I've showed you before in the past, but I have these brackets here to lower the seat 2 inches. These are made by Full Custom Fabrication down in Texas. Really good, solid product, and nice. They bolt right up. You just need to measure, you know, which seat brackets you have. There are 2 different sets of seat brackets, and you need to make sure that you get the right one before you order it, because that can be a mistake. But getting those bolted back on, because I got the seat back from the upholstery shop. Let me set my camera down here and I'll get this seat down where you guys can see it. Real happy with how the seat turned out. The diamond stitch in it, and the color is perfect, just what I wanted. The door panels are still at the upholstery shop, but they're going to have that same diamond stitch in it in the middle, and be, of course, wrapped in the same material. So I'm going to do some test fitting with this today in the cab. I'm going to test fit it because I need to figure out my speaker box and amp box back here, and if I have enough room, or if I'm going to have to build a custom box, what I'm going to have to do. Either way, I'll probably build something that'll look a little nicer than what I have. I just bought a JL sub box, has their name on it. I want to cover it in the same material that the seat is covered in. I bought a little extra material so I can do that, make a real nice clean install. And that's where I'm at right now. Hopefully we'll get some parts in and can move forward on it. Okay, after finishing up all those fittings, I've run my line. This is right underneath the passenger side of the cab. And there's my fuel filter and my regulator, and that's a FiTech regulator. I'll put the part number on the video as well. And so the regulator is in the return side. Of course, filter's in the supply side. So there's my inline fuel gauge that I put on here. I do have one down at the regulator, but I have one up here under the hood so that I can read it easily if I need to. And once I got that mounted, I only had about 36 pounds of pressure, and this system requires closer to 60. I think it's 58 to 60 pounds. So now we're good to get it fired up. And I am getting ready for the initial fire up on this FiTech system. I'm just topping off the transmission fluid and making sure that there's enough in there. It's the 4L80, and I changed the pan and the filter and the gasket. I put a pan on it. You've probably already seen it in a video that had a drain plug. So I am topping that off. Yep. But I checked for leaks, and so far so good. So we'll check to see if this thing will fire for us. Okay, here's the initial fire up. Showing the RPM, coolant temp is there, air to fuel ratio. Play around with those, but that kind of gives you a pretty good idle. So I put some miles on the truck this weekend. It is driving great. I'm telling you, it's night and day from that carburetor to this fuel injection. Should have done this from the very beginning, but I was trying to build it on a budget. I was trying to build it and stay around 10 grand in parts. Well, I blew that out of the water once I switched over to this with the fuel injection. I did the overdrive transmission, the Boyd aluminum tank, finished up the interior, stereo. You know how these projects go. They just kind of get out of hands.